that. Okay, let's go. Let's start the YouTube stream, and I guess that's done. So, before we start, do you have any questions about whatever I'm doing or Python in general?
Don't think so.
Maybe my question would be, and this is perhaps something, I don't know, maybe it's self-evident, but there is a way in which you seem to be creating directives, like new RST directives.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. And so that's like yeah, maybe that's where it goes. Yeah, the process of creating a directive is a little bit mysterious sometimes, but
Oh, yes, it is.
that yeah. Sorry, William, that's kind of an inside joke. It's I'm understating it. It's really the documentation for this part is really
Oh,
mysterious. Yeah.
oh boy.
Yes,
Uh,
Peter's like one of the few people in the world who actually have this mastered.
well,
Oh, that's great.
I would not say mastered. I learned whatever I did in the last like half year. But yeah,
Okay.
there's this open source project called DocuTils,
Yes, of course. Yeah.
uh, which is hosted on SourceForge.
Oh no.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
That's how old it is, yeah. And the documentation is, well, obviously the documentation predates Sphinx because this was used to build Sphinx.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, so it has this like uh, object oriented design from a way back, and it's just yeah, it's an old complicated system, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then Sphinx builds on top of that, and I think Sphinx is sort of trying to move away from DocuTils. First by
Interesting.
supporting Markdown and
Oh, right.
and so on, but because of the way you extend this thing by subclassing various internal
Oh.
classes, uh, yeah, can't really can't really move
Okay.
away from it.
Yeah.
So I
Uh,
find this interesting. Years ago, I worked for a project that built a custom LaTeX library for use with Sphinx, and it was done by a professional book designer, and it's absolutely beautiful. Um, and so I seem to recall that we had to add some additional directives in order to use it.
Yep.
So I may need to do some homework on this.
So I'm not at all sure if my directive that I added is correct. I think I added it here. Uh, oh yeah, this grammar snippet directive,
Okay.
which turns the stuff I'm generating with my tool. It says the group is Python grammar generated by that, and then there's the actual grammar, and basically it turns that into a real directive. I don't know if it's a Sphinx one or a DocuTools one. So it just textually generates a list of
Mm.
lines, but this is not really a list of lines. It's a weird list that I think it
oh.
includes line numbers or something like that, and needs the source. So that
Mm.
Oh.
this is some list subclass that. Oh no, this is normal
Oh,
insert
right. Yeah, this is
element.
just, yeah.
This is the value, but it also needs this keyword argument.
Okay, so
Uh,
question. Does RSTs natively support production lists? Like out of the box?
I don't think so. I think that's a
Oh.
Sphinx thing.
Probably a
Oh,
Sphinx thing.
Sphinx. Yeah, yeah, like, well, yeah, makes sense. Sorry, I'm still, I've never used but either directly, so I'm still mixing the two up.
Oh, yeah. So docutils is
I
kind of like
know.
the original
Sorry, go ahead.
RST. So just in terms of time, in terms of like the chronology, RST was created kind of like along with docutils, and then additional applications later on extended it. Like Sphinx, for example, has some extra commands. Like um,
Right.
I think production list might be one. Table of contents, I think, is another one.
I see. I see.
Yeah, yeah, Swing generally adds support for having multiple pages.
Directives, roles. Oh,
Roles
roles.
are a
Yeah, roles.
Sphinx. Uh,
Yeah, that's a Sphinx thing.
well, the roles are added by Sphinx. The role mechanism is docutils, but like math.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, that's probably Sphinx. Code is probably Sphinx. It's probably all Sphinx. Sometimes it's hard to tell, so it's hard to find the relevant
Mm.
documentation because Sphinx only has the Sphinx bits and the rest is hidden um, somewhere here. Yeah, another problem with the docutils documentation is it's mostly focusing on the syntax of restructured text and not on the classes that you then extend.
Right.
Mm. Okay.
At least from what I know, I haven't
Yeah,
actually
sorry,
read
I
this.
completely derailed this live stream. You can go ahead and cut it if you want to go back to the thing. It's important thing.
Oh, this is important.
Yeah, this is actually quite useful. William, I think as someone who spent a number of years working with Sphinx, this is an area that's not really well understood. So any suggestions or survival tips that you have are very much appreciated. But this is great. Thanks.
Yeah, well, I
Oh
just
yeah,
dived into it with this project, so
Mhm.
not
Okay.
an expert, definitely. And yeah, the Python Docs channels has some Sphinx experts, so it's good to ask in infra if you have a question there. At least whenever it's
Good
related to
point.
Python documentation.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is another part of this project. Let's go through this. So this directive has content. It has some options, so you can specify the group, and generated by is basically a comment that just says where to look for the tool, and don't try to change it by hand. It has one required argument, which is the name of the rule to document. But the final required argument can have white space, which means it's not really one argument, but it can be several of them.
Mm.
So yeah, this
okay.
is the docutils way of saying yeah, this takes a variable number of arguments, and then you need to separate them yourself, of course. The argument is not actually used; they're just there for the tool that uses it to output this part here. So this only gets the group name because that needs to be put here, and the group name for production list says that all the tokens and rules here should be cross-linked within this group. Right, so you can document several grammars in one set of documentation, and they will only be like new line is the Python grammar's new line and not any other new line. And I'm not aware of many projects that use that except Python, which has the Python grammar, but also the string formatting syntax, which of course is completely different. Anyway, what this does is go through the content here, adds an indent to each line, and inserts an extra line at the beginning, coming from this Python file, and then it creates a paragraph, calls the parser on this content and tells it to populate the paragraph, and then it gets rid of the paragraph and only returns its children, which is not very obvious, and I forget how I divined that this is the way to do it, but it works.
So what's the advantage over just inserting the lines directly?
So the advantage is this gets parsed as a production list. So if I look at the output, where do I have the output?
I meant specifically the part where you create a paragraph and then insert the
that's
the children.
That's there, so I can do the nested parse.
Oh, nested parse, right.
The parser needs some kind of container to put the content into.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Right. And I think the main thing I need from the parser is auto-linking the tokens and the rules. I've been thinking about doing that manually and getting rid of this, but I guess this is the easiest way to do things. Right, so thanks for the question. That's one part of the project, and the other one is actually generating the documentation, which I should probably open. I think I don't have it open anymore. Do I have it built? No. Oh, I got an error. Search index couldn't be loaded. What's the problem? Do I need to rebuild the whole documentation? Yeah, one issue with Sphinx that I have is it's really slow, especially when it needs to rebuild all of the documentation.
I wonder if it would end up being faster using a different, like something other than Make. Like some of these more modern build tools will cache stuff.
Kind of. Make already.
Not really. So what Make does is it runs Sphinx build, and that's basically it.
Oh, I see. So Sphinx build is
figure out the correct arguments.
Okay.
And Sphinx build is supposed to cache things already, but
okay.
Yeah. It's probably not configured all that well.
You guys skim through the Sphinx build arguments, see if there's anything that pops up.
So the builder is HTML.
Are you passing already a number of jobs to Sphinx build?
Dude, yeah, JAuto.
Okay. Just making sure.
W.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah, no, there is
probably
no
telling
other
to
arguments that.
treat warnings as errors, and then I. So this is probably the biggest speed up. I give it a few files to focus on, so it doesn't rebuild everything.
Uh,
Oh, nice.
But I think the problem with that is whenever there's an error, the cache is thrown away. So if you're developing a Sphinx extension,
Hmm.
it's really slow. Anyway, what were we looking at last time? Was that function calls?
Yeah,
Do we have
I think that
function
was right. We had some repetition that was a little gnarly.
expression primaries calls? Yeah. Well, a little gnarly. It's yeah. So the way I do this is the output of the tool, and this is the original documentation that you can find on python.org now. And when the output of the tool isn't that great, I leave both of them here so I can look at them. And is this missing something? I seem to remember there was more of this. It would probably be much more effective if I did this for a longer period of time than an hour or two each week, and then have to remember what I was doing the last time. But yeah, I think the main issue with this syntax, let me bring it to a new window. What? Copy it. That's an interesting pull request, by the way. So the problem with the readability of this this thing, I think, is that we have something here, and then an optional comma and keyword arguments, or we have the keyword arguments, which is something that comes up surprisingly often in the Python grammar, but isn't really expressed in the traditional grammar syntax. Right? And stop me if you already heard this from me. Blaze probably did. So if we look at the entire grammar, there's a similar thing, similar extension to the grammar syntax, which you won't find in grammar textbooks, the so-called gather, which is written by this separator dot expression plus, and it is completely identical to expression and then any number of expression separated by separators, right? And this is used a lot, and it makes the grammar much easier to read.
Okay, so can I propose another extension like this? Like just s.e star instead of plus? Wouldn't that fit what you're trying to do?
So you can get the same thing by just putting this in square brackets, making this optional.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. I was talking about maybe I'm misunderstanding what you were saying like right before this. Yeah, I'm misbuilding. What's the word for this? I maybe I misunderstood what the actual structure was.
So the plus here is meant to emulate the plus for one or more. So generally in grammars, plus means one or more. This is also one or more. And the star is 0 or more, which is just optional. Whatever has the plus, right? So I wouldn't add entirely new
oh no, yeah, no, I
syntax that
just
uses
saw
a
the.
star here.
Yeah, no, my bad. Yeah, no, I just reread the definition for this one, and I thought it was a plus inside the parentheses instead of.
No.
Yeah, okay, never mind. I'm being silly.
So what I'm looking for here is I actually wrote that as a to do in my file. So this is the gather that's there already, and this is the new proposal, which is match the given expressions in the given order, separated by the separator.
Okay, yeah.
And each of them is individually optional, but at least one must be given. And the railroad diagram library that I was looking at actually supports this. It can generate diagrams. Let's see, do I have this?
Oh.
I have the picture from last time. So, as a railroad diagram, it would look like this, right? You can start at any one, but you can skip over everything. And once you've parsed something, then you can skip to the end or parse any other one. But you also always have to have one separator between the adjacent elements.
Yes. Yeah, that makes sense.
And that comes. That looks like it would come in handy. Where's my other window? Because it's here, right? You have comma separated expressions, and then you have comma separated keyword arguments. But then you have the same thing here, where you have comma separated quark or double starred, and here it's something else, and then that's optional and separated by a comma. So let's see how that could work with the syntax that I just proposed for myself. So that would be comma separated this.
This might be a bit confusing due to nestedness.
Yeah.
You might want to create a separate rule for this.
A separate, like, for this thing.
Yeah, for the. Yeah, I'm just saying stupid things out loud, but I think if you stick this thing inside of another extension rule, it might be confusing due to how many levels there are in the single. Similar to how many indents you have in the Python function.
Yeah.
It might get a bit difficult to read.
So you're saying not inline it that much, or well, maybe.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I guess that could work too. Yeah.
Work like that.
Yeah.
Because, well, another thing that we can do now is probably inline this rule, which might make it more nested.
Right.
And the same thing can be done for args here, so that would be comma separated. And I'm not really sold on the syntax here. Maybe there's a better way to do this.
Okay.
Like the comma here is a bit weird. Which now means we can inline this keyword arguments here and put it all together, right?
Okay, I just sent you the snippet Blaze mentioned, so you can actually add me to the as a contributor or collaborator, co-author. It's co-author. or when you actually get to that part. No rush.
Ooh. Yeah, I'll probably ask for those again when I'm done.
Okay.
Don't know where I put the last one. Maybe it's still in the chat. Oh, it is. Git doesn't really have a good way to add a draft of the commit message for the branch or something like that.
Yeah, no, there's really no good way. The best you can do is probably stash it with a message. No, wait, stash doesn't allow you. No, never mind. Yeah, no, there really isn't one.
Yeah, I guess you could stash it, and then as you go, along, you can sort of edit it and then paste it into the commit message, but it's clunky.
Yeah, it is really clunky.
Yeah.
Got started.
The problem is that's not really standard workflow, so I need to remember to do that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Well, okay, we'll remind you.
Oh,
Don't worry about it.
I know what I can do on this commit. I can add you all to
Oh, is there an authors file?
Should be an authors file.
Makes sense.
Why can't I see?
How weird. Okay.
There's no authors file. Where's the authors file? What?
Huh. Interesting. Oh, no one caught this earlier. Python doc consoles. Is it on GitHub?
I seem to remember there was an authors file. Interesting. Okay, well.
I guess we can. Oh, but this is the CPython authors, right?
Yeah.
That would be a bigger file.
That's.
Reference to.
That's the repo
is it?
I'm working on.
Yeah. Wow.
Nope. Interesting. My memory is failing me.
Well,
wait.
I can poke around and see if there might be one. Actually, I'll just ask the discourse group.
Yeah, true.
There you go.
Well, or now that we have a Discord.
Yeah.
Discord channel, I can just pin it to the channel.
Oh, how cool. Okay. That's such a good idea. Okay, we can do that.
There we go. Pinned. Now I still need to remember to look at that later, but at least it's.
Oh, I can mention you.
Discoverable place. All right, where were we? Here. Right, so this looks like a simplification. I'm not really sold on the syntax though. So one, let me put the original there as well. And I guess start expression. Oh, that's there twice now, so that can be in line. really. So this is the original. That one is using the new syntax that I'm trying to come up with. Is it better?
I think. Wait, sorry. What was better?
Is this better than
The previous.
the previous one?
It depends. I'd say if this is the only place where this extension is used, it's just adding a level in direction that doesn't need to be there. But if this gets used more often in the code base, as you said, like this is somewhat common in the grammar. I think if this has more exposure to the user, this should be fine and
Right.
better overall.
Well, okay. Let's see where this would end up. So that means we need to look at all the grammar. So in top level components, of course, there's no such thing. Compound statements, maybe not a lot of that. It seems to mostly be useful for arguments, doesn't it?
Maybe where we talk about comprehensions, where there's lots of arguments. Oh, I guess.
Not here. Not here.
Oh, it's not that. Yeah, it's not that common.
Not that common outside arguments.
Okay.
Here's one. Mapping pattern. So there's the items pattern.
Okay.
Actually, this is a little bit different, right? Because it's any of those separated by commas.
Let's add some indents to that. So, this whole thing is optional inside the braces. And here you have either items pattern or items pattern, comma, double star pattern, or just double star pattern. Right? So it is the same thing. It is comma separated, items pattern and double star pattern in that order. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Now, if we could make it that this reads as, you know, these in this order, separated by the comma, then it's an improvement. But of course, if it only happens 5 times in the entire docs, then it's not.
Yeah.
But I know a place where this would definitely be an improvement, and that's the railroad diagrams. We probably do want it there, even if it's spelled out in the actual docs. Which means we might want different simplification procedure for the diagrams than for the textual docs. Complexities. Same thing here. So this is class pattern, which has positional patterns and keyword patterns, again separated by a comma. And you know, maybe there's a better syntax for this. Like, could we somehow say
You mean like
positional patterns,
optional
then,
comma?
You know, this doesn't look right because it affects the optionality of these two things. Right? Somehow I would want to put the square brackets like one set here and one set there.
Right. I think is the question mark is the question mark a valid quantifier? That's the word. Is it a valid quantifier in these grammars? Like 1 or 0?
Yes. So yeah, there are two ways to spell optionality: the square brackets, which I'm using everywhere, but you can use the question mark in the input, like in the actual grammar file.
Because I was gonna suggest like separator dot expression question mark might fit what you're.
So how would that work?
So positional arguments, comma dot positional arguments question mark, maybe. I'm not entirely sure.
Positional arguments, keyword patterns.
No, because it also. No, it doesn't work.
And this kind of thing is much better with diagrams.
Yep. Is there a way to automate? No, that can't be a way to automate generate good diagrams. That would be way too useful. way too hard.
Well, the railroad diagrams are created from this, right?
Well,
yes.
Well, from the same representation, yeah.
Oh, okay.
They're not actually created yet. I haven't.
Okay.
Haven't gotten to that part.
Yeah, that'd be really difficult.
But yeah,
like just getting the lines not to cross over at bad points. It'd be so much harder.
That's this.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, like I meant automatically.
Oh no. So there's a PyPI.
Really?
Railroad diagram library. Diagrams, yeah.
Huh.
That has this
Oh,
built
look
in.
at that. That's really neat.
That's actually where I copied my notes from. The only thing we need that's not covered by this library is the separators. I don't know if we want to hack this library or write our own. But yeah, I'm pretty sure you can add separators like that and it'll be fine. So this is what the library gives us. These are the separators. But that'll... I mean, they could take that as a pull request or something.
Is it still active? 12 years ago?
Yeah, 3 months ago. They added a... So I guess it was JavaScript and SVG first, and then they added the Python port. Yeah. So yeah, that I mean, the author looks like they know what they're talking about, so should be easy to hack. And also, it's not really hard to generate railroad diagrams directly. If
Yeah, the worst case scenario is just we have a full size node for a separator, right?
Yeah, which basically never happens. It's always a comma
No,
in our case.
I know, but in the diagram, like it auto generates, we just have a comma in a full size node instead of a tiny one.
Oh, well, yeah, might be better to put it in a tiny one.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. It would be better, but like in the worst case scenario, if we can't manage to do that, then we can do that.
Yeah. So yeah, this will be definitely useful for diagrams. It would be great if we could make it work for text as well. Okay, so this is the function definitions. This is what I was looking at earlier. So this
No,
is
you misselected.
positively gnarly.
No, this is. I suggested Control Z.
Copied everything. Uh, so let's try to simplify this. Now, is it the case we had before?
Um.
Yeah. So here I see there's the star
Wait,
parameter.
What's that slash doing in the parameter definition?
The slash. That's the end of positional only arguments.
Mm.
Huh. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, that's a thing. And that's why you have first you have the normal first you have the positional only arguments, and then you have the no positional only arguments, or you can have just the not positional only arguments.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess there's the comma, and you can have either this with the trailing slash or the no pos only.
Except both are optional, right? Or do they also produce the empty string?
Yeah, maybe all of that's optional. Yeah, all of that should be optional. What's there next? There's parameter list star args with the same thing here, right? So you have some kind of default parameter.
Actually, hang on. This isn't that line 61 also supposed to be optional? Or am I misreading this?
61. Yes.
Yeah, because
so this means everyone is individual optional, but you have to have at least one.
okay. No, yeah. Sorry.
And I don't know why this didn't turn into a gather. And then we have parameterless star args, which is the same thing once again. So there's this big part, then the comma, and then the small part. And what that gives us is the ability to inline these, right? Because now parameterless star args, as far as I can see, only appears here.
Actually, hang on. No, never mind. I was gonna say something wrong.
So we can inline that and basically make this join the list.
Mm-hmm.
And now parameterless pos only, same thing here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Make this join the list. Right, so now the parameter list is a comma separated ordered thing, and you have a gather here as well, where you have positional arguments with a trailing slash, then non-positional arguments, then some kind of default parameters. Of course, this is optional.
didn't you just nuke the parameter list no pos only? Isn't that what the bottom block is?
No, I
It's
don't.
like this.
Oh, did I? Oh, right. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Then default parameters, then parameterless star args, which for some. Oh, I also nuked that, right? Then you have these stars and double stars.
And also remember to do the what do you call that expansion for the separator dot something plus
Oh, gather.
on the first line. Gather.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
so you gather. Yeah.
That's called gather in the. Wait. This probably isn't a gather, is it?
Is it? Isn't it? I think it is.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's one more gotcha here, which is this comma. That's not really supposed to be there in this way because there's either a comma or the ending brace, or a positive look ahead for the ending brace in the actual grammar. And currently my tool is ignoring look aheads, so the grammar is not actually truthful.
Does the grammar actually support look aheads? I thought that was
yes.
That's.
So Python's
I don't know how I feel about that.
Looks like this. And let's see what the funcdef really is, and it's quite a beast. Oh, did I? Oh, I copied the old one, not the new one, didn't I? Yeah.
Oh no.
Well, that's good because this one doesn't have the problem. the new one tells lies. So let's see what function def actually looks like. So it's this. So it has decorators.
Wait, decorators? Right, yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know why I assumed that decorators weren't part of the syntax. It's just absurd.
They are.
Yeah, of course they are. Of course they are. Yeah.
So the grammar here has, of course, names for all of the elements because it has a snippet of C code for everything that builds the AST. Right. So this is not very readable, and that's why in the documentation, this is also a funny story. So this uses a syntax highlighter to hide the stuff that's not important.
Right, you did mention that. That's pretty funny.
So yeah, funny story. Anyway, so a function def then looks like this. Basically the same thing. Should be the same thing. Yeah, same thing without all the names and actions and stuff. And if you look at all the parameter definitions, they all have two variants. One ends with a comma, and the other ends with a look ahead for the ending brace.
Interesting.
So of course, when my tool ignores this, it sees, well, it basically simplifies this thing into an optional comma at the end, which is bad, right?
Supporting look ahead is such an annoying little detail that you're gonna have to deal with.
Yes, and in most cases, the look aheads are just for optimization.
Oh, I thought this one was quote unquote required to make the grammar readable.
Yeah, this one is required syntactically,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
If you're not ending the list of arguments here, then you have to have a comma.
Right.
Which means that this whole thing is full with these optional commas at the end of every kind of parameter, which is wrong. They're not optional.
And how do you plan to deal with that?
And that's a very good question.
Oh.
So I see two ways. One way is to just support lookaheads, which will make the grammar unreadable in the cases where the lookahead is just there for optimization.
Right.
The other way would be to change the metagrammar and add something like this and say same as
I see.
ta-da!
Yep.
I don't know if I can get away with that though.
Maybe. Yeah, I'm not familiar enough to give any insight in this matter. I am just trying to think through what could go wrong.
Well, I guess the default way to do this is to leave the old documentation. Just not show the tool generated stuff in this particular case, and you can see the old the old grammar is not really readable either. And that means it just needs to be described in the prose. On the other hand, this is, I mean, if
This
you
doesn't
know
look too bad.
if you know what the syntax is, this is pretty much exactly what the prose would say, right? You have this kind first, then that one, and then that one.
Yeah.
And they're all separated by commas. So yeah, if we can find a good syntax for this, that would be amazing, but I'm not sure if we can. Well, that's what the diagrams are for anyway. So let's try to find some more instances where this would be usable. Not here. And I don't think there's much in the statements. Oh, assignment statements. Those are...
Oh boy.
Oh, because we have the walrus operator to deal with.
Yeah, that's one reason.
Is an unbalanced assignment a grammar error or a logic error?
What do you mean unbalanced assignment?
Like you have 4 variables on the left being assigned 2 values on the right.
That's a value error, I think.
Okay. Then
like
not as bad as I thought.
A, B equals 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Value error.
Okay, good.
This one is a type error. This is horribly complicated, but I don't see what the pattern we're looking for in here. So let's go on. Augmented assignment is just long, not complicated. This is fine. Import. No, that's just a lot of weird variants. So this is also something that comes up surprisingly often, where you have the same thing either without parentheses or with parentheses, which isn't very readable, and it can't really be represented well on the railroad diagram. So basically, we have to repeat this name. Yeah, I don't see a way to make that better.
Yeah.
Yeah, we might be getting to the end here. Probably see some lambda definition somewhere around here. Calls. That's the original thing I looked at. So yeah, it's already in the notes. Lambdas. So yeah, for some reason, lambda parameters are a copy of the grammar, and I assume the reason is they all have a different look ahead. Right? The end of lambda parameters is not a closing parentheses, but a colon. So all the parameter definitions need to be repeated in the grammar with a different look ahead token. So yeah, this obviously has the same problem as function definitions. This is an interesting case that's not a gather, but not what we're looking for.
Is it not? Oh, it's just a single one.
No, because the comma is necessary when there's the first thing.
Right.
Okay, that's all the grammar. So what did we get? Arguments. Mapping patterns, function definitions, and that's it. So it's probably not worth it to add a new grammar rule, but we'll need to add one for the diagrams only. Oh well. So let me update my to-do.
By the way, William, if you want, there's no reason why you and I couldn't like take a look at this later on during the week and
Oh yeah, yeah.
see if there's anything we might
I
be able
was
to.
gonna ask. I was gonna ask if there's like smaller issues that we could take on while you like. Obviously, we don't know the code base as well as you do, but
Well,
there's something simpler that we could work on while you are not
something
streaming.
simpler. I don't know. Maybe we can
And
go through
we
the
could.
code base and
Sorry, go ahead.
see what is there.
Yeah, yeah, I guess that works.
You
And we could try also to just do what you're doing. That is also viable. I'm just not
Right.
sure how well it will go.
Yeah, so maybe if I explain what is there now and maybe even try to clean it up, might be easier. Right, so we will need this optional sequence. That's what the railroad diagram library calls it. With separators, but it'll probably be best to implement this and then write it out in this way for the text form, so it's indistinguishable from oh no, that's not right. I'm thinking too much. Yeah, so this will need to be only done for the railroad diagrams, and the reason is if we want to write it out like this, then these parts probably shouldn't be inlined. If this is a rule name, it should stay a rule name and it should be expanded below. Otherwise, it'll be very, very long. Here's one thing that's probably not easy, but I still don't know how to do it well. If there's a long line, how do you wrap it?
Oh.
It's a surprisingly tricky problem. Might want to think it through on stream later. Next idea is to simplify the elif statement from this. So it's elif blah 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 blah, and then it has elif statement or else block, and that could be simplified into repeated elif statements, because this just refers back to that, which is this thing, and then it ends with an optional else block.
Question: wouldn't that be an elif repeated block plus instead of star?
Right, yes.
Can an elif statement
yes.
produce in those? Okay.
You're definitely right. Oh well, I guess in all cases where elif statement is used, it's optional, but yeah, you're correct.
I see.
Yeah, mark lookouts necessary or not. I was talking about that earlier. So one place where they're needed is the arguments. Another is the pattern capture target, where if you use an underscore in a case statement, it has a different meaning at the grammar level. So the underscore needs to look like this. It's a name that is not an underscore.
I see. Okay.
And then there's another one which is star target, which cannot have 2 stars, just one. That's probably an edge case that, I mean, things like this and this could be explained in the pros if we know about them.
Yeah, but I think it's best to also leave the rules in just in case someone actually is trying to parse this programmatically as well.
Yeah, probably. I mean, the idea, no, the reason I didn't include them is that I'm not necessarily trying to be 100% correct in these docs. Like, it's okay to give the gist of what's going on, and if there's some edge case that you normally don't need to worry about, then you really should be looking at the full grammar.
Right.
Right? So there is a bit of a leeway, but like in this case, it's probably not enough.
Spectre wrapping the long rules.
So we should remove the func type comment rule. Let's see what that is. Right, so the grammar has these type comment tokens which are only generated and only show up when you parse the grammar in a special way. If I think there's an argument you can pass to AST parse, right? Type comments, and if you do that, the tokenizer will generate these type comment tokens, and you'll get them in the grammar, and type checkers use that, but it's not used in the actual Python programs. So that's why my tool throws them away, but it should also throw away this func type comment, which only serves to make these parsable. And that's probably best handled with a special case somewhere. Like find the necessary data structure and throw away func type comment and all references to it. So that might be a nice issue to look at. So this one is a change to Python's grammar. If you look at class def raw, see if we named this part and make it a separate rule, if that would have any adverse effects on the speed of the parser or something like that, because it would make the grammar more readable in the docs. Next up, mark an alternative as optimization only. So in Delty Atom, we have these two cases. So you have parenthesized a single deletion target, or you have deletion targets, which is just a comma separated list of deletion targets, right? So this thing is a special case of this. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Right, so we can remove this from the documentation. It's only there to make this the common case faster, because it's easier to parse this than the entire list. Right? So if we had some way to go I didn't copy it again. If we have some way to go in this file and do something like docs tag or something like that, and teach everything to expect tags like this, that would only be helpful for our tool. That might help. Next up, for if clause. what's the problem here? Maybe I need to look at the actual grammar. Invalid for target. What's the problem here? Don't really remember. This might be solved. Let's just remove that. Okay, next grammar change that would be nice for the grammar is in proper slice.
That could be. No, I can't. No, I can't be using the new gather like thing.
No, let's look. I think this is the old documentation. Let's see. It's not in the grammar now. Oh, here it is. Slice, just slice now. Maybe it's in line though. Slices. Where does this appear in the new grammar? This looks like the old grammar. Interesting. Anyway, let's look here. This is not very readable, and if this was named, it could make it easier to read.
I'm just not sure what else.
Like
it has to be an expression. Like it can't be.
This is the way the old docs handle it. Right?
I see. Okay, I see.
So do something like that to the grammar. I mean, maybe instead of ABC, you could use proper names, and then somehow tell the tool that if it sees a proper name instead of A, B, and C, it should use that some way. I don't know. Yeah, just a not fully fleshed out idea here. And then here's to do to not simplify the try statement. Let's look. Let's look what that looks like. Yeah, so apparently that's simplified too much, and it would be better to keep it as as the 3 separate alternatives. Let's see how it looks in the grammar. Yeah, like here. So this is probably easier than if this try::colon block is taking out as a common thing, and this else block and finally block is as well, right? So this is common, and then there are 2 alternatives. One of them is the finally block, and the other one is these 2 alternatives with 2 optional things, right? So the optimization went a bit overboard here, and it would be nice to have some way to control it.
Mm.
I don't know if this should be a special case, like somewhere in the tool say, if this is a try statement, don't bother optimizing it.
Oh.
Maybe that would work. Maybe we could go here and say, add some kind of tag and saying this looks good as it is.
So far, the one that seemed best to me was the one making the A equals something something, but I still don't have any strong opinions. I just vaguely think that's better.
Oh, you mean instead of proper names, have like A, B, and C?
No, like using A, B, and C and the source grammar that then gets mapped to proper names in the docs.
Mm.
Right.
Right? Does that make sense, or am I misunderstanding something?
No, I think that makes sense. In other words, rather than just say statement, statement, statement.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I guess one way is to,
Oh, expression. That's what it says. Yeah. The
Oh,
lower
no,
bound, upper bound. Yeah.
yeah, that also works. But what I was thinking was instead of A, just do lower bound equals expression.
yeah.
Oh.
I think that would be clear in both ends.
Then of course
Okay.
you need to use it here.
Yeah.
Recompile the grammar, see if it still works, but then look at the tool, which currently, and I'll
then you
probably
actually
get
have
to
to
that.
support that. But
So this is converting the grammar nodes the parser generates to our own classes, and it has this named item. So named item is currently completely ignored. So it gets the inside of that, throws away the name, and just calls this recursively, right? So it ignores the name. So here would be the place to look, and instead of looking inside, probably add a new container here that would remember the name. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Right.
I don't know how difficult that would be, but
and you probably only want to do that if the name is long enough, or have some kind of guesswork like that, because there's a lot of A's and B's throughout the grammar, and you don't want those.
Yeah.
Right, so maybe more than one character is a good heuristic.
Like I can think of another rule, but that requires so much changing. It's just if it starts with an underscore, ignore it. But
that
you
would
have
be
to change
changing the whole grammar.
Yeah. Or we can go the other way. If it starts with an underscore, don't ignore it.
That's not. That doesn't read very well.
Yeah, that's usually the opposite of what we want.
Well, let's do this. We can hack around here. Like we can ask what the name is. Is that the correct API for this? All right. And then let's add this hack.
Wait. Why are there none names?
Well, I guess not everything's named.
But why is it falling under the named item then?
No idea.
Uh-oh. This is bad. This is bad.
Well, who knows? This is interesting.
This will definitely not bite us in the ass later.
Uh, well, let's see what the actual node is. What's inside? Wait till. Okay. None.
Equals
As.
a named item?
What?
Wait, why is everything falling on the... What?
Yeah, looks
Wait,
like
wait, wait, wait.
everything is falling under named
Is
item.
is named... Does named item inherit from anything?
Oh yeah, sure. So that's in the pigeon grammar.
It might be a polymorphism trap.
So if you look at the metagrammar, the grammar for the grammar, let's see how named item gets created. So apparently this is strongly typed. So anything that could have a name is a named item, and if it doesn't have a name,
well, this kind of sucks.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I don't use the raw AST from the parser, right? That's why I have this huge weird function that can just ignore those.
I mean, I assume if we just check for none and the item name, we'll be fine.
Yes.
Hopefully.
Yeah. But let's do this. Add this to a list of those names, and then somewhere at the end, print them out.
Don't you probably want to filter out nuns?
It's a set, so it's their ones.
Yeah, fair.
So what do we have? Target, rbrace, conf token, guard, rest.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of them. Like EL. That probably don't
what
want.
Can we could just arbitrarily pick a prefix like gr for grammar or docutils or something, and just prefix it to every token we want to capture.
Well, let's see how common they are. So none is most common. Then you have A and B with the hundreds, C with 40, TC is surprisingly common. Oh, that's the type comment.
Oh, type comment. Yeah, makes sense.
Right, so that won't show up at all. Then a bunch of singular ones, and then patterns. Which I guess is not worth showing. Yeah.
What is the pattern? Is that the case?
That's for pattern matching. The match statement.
Match statement. Yeah, I haven't used Python in a hot minute, so I've never actually played with match statement.
Yeah, the new stuff.
Yeah, the new stuff. The kids' new toys.
Actually, when we go through the code, which we should probably do, there's a bunch of pattern matching. Yeah. Anyway, so looks like there's like 24 multi-letter names to look at, and you know, maybe if you replace all of these with P, it would work.
Yeah. I'm not super into the idea of changing a bunch of lines just so one fancy workaround we're thinking of works. Like I like the idea that I suggested, but I don't think it holds that much water to suggest so many changes.
Or you can just have a stop list of words and say, you know,
Yeah, I
pattern doesn't
guess.
count.
I guess.
I mean, I think we'll if this is accepted, which it still might not, we might want to change the grammar in some ways anyway. It's not really written to appear in the documentation as it is, and there's only so much we can do automatically. So maybe the best thing to start with would be to just show the names if they're more than one letter.
Yeah.
And there would be a dozen cases to look at where that might not be great.
Or hang on. Could you put an additional argument on the expansion directive that says, hey, don't use the names for this rule?
Like add directives here or somewhere here.
I'm not sure where it is, but like in the RST, at some point you're at some point, I don't know, you're processing that line that starts with 2 colons and replacing it with the rules.
Yeah, that's a possibility. But if you're looking for something to do, start with showing names that are more than one letter, and then let's look for the next step. That's probably the best thing to do right now.
Okay.
But yeah, that's a good idea. So that would be in the doc reference. Let's say simple statements here. So this is the old documentation. This is the new, and this line is actually written by a human. Everything after that is auto-generated. Right, and this grammar snippet can have multiple rules. Let's see if here. So this says to document both import statement and import from targets. It also says not to inline import from targets. Right, it only appears once here. So normally what the tool would do is take this and just stick it in here, which is not as readable in this case. So this is the way to prevent that. And yeah, you can add something here. That's completely in our control with the tool. Yeah, let's have a look through the code. I think we started last time and you needed to leave at around this point. Is that right?
I don't quite remember. But
so
I do know I need to leave. There's
a main function that gathers all the files, figures out which ones have the headers and should be regenerated, parses the grammar using existing machinery, and then it goes through all the files and updates them, and then it compares if the file should be changed, and if it should, then it writes the file. That means it keeps the modification time for unchanged files, which is quite important. So that's the main function. Next up is the data model here. Or classes. Classes here. So we have an enumeration for the precedence of various stuff, just to help with adding parentheses. And then we have nodes for, well, the syntax elements there. So this mostly mirrors what's in the grammar.file here, like we have rules and right-hand sides and alternatives and stuff like that. But these classes aren't that great to work with, so
yeah. Just quick question: why is it a data class if it has no init method?
So data class is not really important here, but if I
Oh, it's for the inheritance.
I guess it's best for here. So the gather has a separator and an item.
I see.
Right? And what data class does is it generates the init method and the string representations automatically. Right? So if I print out a gather, it'll print out its separator and item, which is really useful, and I don't want to write that myself.
Yeah, fair enough.
And when I say it's frozen, that means I cannot modify these afterwards. And also it gets a hash. So I can use it in indicts. So yeah, data class is mostly used here to get the string representations. It's not useful for the superclass, but it's probably for inheritance reasons there. So these are the base implementations of everything. There's format enclosed, which puts parentheses around the output of self format. There's simplification, which in the base case just returns the same thing. There's a format for precedence, which puts parentheses around the formatted display if the precedence of this node is lower than the parent. Basically, if it needs to be parenthesized, it does that. There's a debug method, indented printing, and there's format lines, which isn't really fleshed out yet. This doesn't really work, but that's for multi-line output. That should be added at one point. Now, one subclass of node is the container, which has items, and when you iterate it, it'll give you all those items. Containers are either choice or the sequence, right? Containers can simplify their items. This is again the base class implementation. Dumping is a little more involved. And then there's this inlined method. I guess we'll get into that later.
Just heads up, I might need to leave soonish.
Soonish.
So I'm soonish.
Okay, so let's look at choice, the interesting thing, and just let me know when you need to leave.
Okay.
So choice is the container of choices, right? Pick one of these nodes, right? That's a container. It's formatted by putting the bars between each choice.
Yep.
And the very interesting thing here, like the meat of this program, is the simplification for choices.
Yeah, I'm trying to read it, but I'm not really following.
Yeah, it's a bit complicated.
Okay.
So it builds a list of simplified alternatives. So those are the items, right? So for each of the alternatives in this choice, it'll simplify that item, and then it will look what it is, right? If it's none, we pass.
Yeah, okay.
We might not need that anymore, maybe.
Yeah, but like, what is optional? What does that represent?
Optional is an optional rule. like this one. It has the braces around it,
Okay.
so yeah, that's optional. That's one of the classes that'll come up later. Right?
Okay, makes sense. What is the is optional variable though? If it
So
has
is
any is optional.
Right, so
If it
is
has any
optional
optional.
is a flag that we set whenever there's an empty choice. We so this is empty, right? A container with no
Right.
things in it is empty. So when there's an empty choice in this list of choices, then we ignore it and mark the whole container as optional.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah.
Right.
Okay. Yes.
If something is optional, like if one of the alternatives is optional, then we mark the whole thing as optional
Yeah.
again, and only append the inside of what's optional.
Why is it a list though?
Because
Wouldn't
the
that-
alternatives
wouldn't that be
is a list of lists.
Okay. Well, I won't question that much. That's probably a good reason for that.
Yeah, lists are just a bit easier to work with,
Okay.
especially
I
in the
believe you.
segment. If it's a sequence, we append all of its elements. Like append, not extend, so we add a list of the elements in there.
Yes.
If it's a choice, we basically inline the choice into this one. We inherit all the choices in that flat element.
Wait, hang on. Extend?
So extend means we go off through all the alternatives in the inner choice and add them one by one.
Yeah, I was a bit confused there by the lack of, like, I didn't know extend takes in a generator, but that makes sense.
Yeah. And anything else, we add a list of that one item.
Okay.
Right. This is tricky to get right. So there's an assert that all of the alternatives are lists. Right. Yeah. There's a list of one item here, for example. And then there's the simplification logic, which so there's probably some there's probably some way to simplify this. So we're building a new list of alternatives here, and basically we go through all the indices and simplify the sublist starting with each index. So we basically go through all the tails of the list of alternatives.
Is this big O then squared?
Yes.
Oh boy. I mean, it doesn't really matter. The lists are probably going to be really small.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not optimized at all, which is okay. It runs very fast. Python's grammar is not that big, so it doesn't really pay off to optimize at all. But yeah, it's big O and squared. So we simplify the subsequence, and the simplify subsequence method will return a replacement for the start of that tail, and tell us how many items it processed. Right? So it can basically replace the whole thing with one item, or it can replace the first thing from that tail with 3 new ones, or things like that. Right? And then we we make a big bunch of asserts, put the replacement in the new list of alternatives, and update the index. So this is not a for loop because the index can jump by more than one thing. If we combine two things in the sequence, then we jump by 2. Right?
Yep.
Next up, if this thing is supposed to be optional, so this is a function to wrap a result. So if it's supposed to be optional, then it wraps it.
Oh, this is a nested function. Okay.
Yeah, nested function. If there's only one alternative left, then it's not a choice anymore, so we just return a sequence with that one alternative.
Mm-hmm.
If there are no alternatives left, we return an empty sequence.
Right, yeah, okay.
Which
I still can
isn't
follow.
really correct. We should return some kind of not reachable, probably.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, that. Yeah.
yeah, I'm not sure I followed that last part. Why unreachable?
Let's say this one. So a compound statement can be parsed as either a function definition or an if statement or something like that. But if you have an empty choice, like pick one of those and
Oh.
parse
Yeah.
that as compound statement, right? So
Yeah, that makes sense. I
one
just
parsing.
processed that in my mind as like a null product instead of a like
Yeah,
So
to me
would that be to raise an exception or to just return a specific value?
it should probably be a specific value. I mean, it's something like one other feature of this grammar, which is this invalid rules,
Oh, okay.
Which you can get for proper Python syntax, but
Mm-hmm.
they give better error messages. So what the Python parser does is it first parses the program using the normal syntax,
Mm.
and if it gets an error, then it reparses the whole program with the grammar with these rules added in. Right. So
Oh.
if there's an error, if there's a syntax error, it takes twice as long, but you get all of these rules, and there's quite a lot of them.
Oh, I see. Then okay, of course.
And
So you want to
give,
return a key. You want to return some sort of a key so that you can then, deliver a nice
so these
descriptive message.
give better error messages, and then you'll have stuff like this, like arguments is either proper arguments or invalid arguments, and the the parser generator generates two versions of the grammar, one with these and one without.
Okay, cool.
So what our tool
Sadly,
does?
I am gonna have to go here, but thanks for the stream. Is there anything you wanted to tell me before I go?
Thanks for your attention. I guess we'll be on Discord, and we'll see each other
Yeah.
in a week
Okay.
if you're here.
Yeah, sure. Count on me.
All right.
Okay.
See you
And we've
around.
got the recording, so we can review this.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah. Okay. Bye. Thanks.
Bye.
Take care.
Well, I'll have to leave in 15 minutes.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine.
I don't know what to talk about.
Well, have we really made? Well, I guess we have made some changes.
So I guess the only changes made is this plus in a note. Remove to do, that doesn't make sense anymore. This hack. And that's it. So do this. Removed line here. Why not? That's nice to do here. Not that. But it's nice when a new person joins to go through the code.
Yeah. Well, particularly someone who's a student of grammars. I mean, this is a domain that's close to what his field of interest.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
But let's do this.
Yeah.
So if there are no alternatives, then we should return an empty choice, right?
Well, that's what we're returning now, right? Is what we're returning.
Now we're returning an empty sequence.
Oh, an empty sequence. Oh, I see. Okay.
So let's remove this this special case, and then what we have to do is we use empty container basically to mean empty sequence, but we shouldn't, because if there's an empty sequence here, then the whole choice needs to be optional. But if there's an empty choice, that means this item is not reachable, but it shouldn't make the choice optional. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Right.
Oh, we have the case, but oh, do we tell it what to do?
Yeah,
case then.
And then we need to make the same thing here. So in a sequence, if an element of a sequence is an empty sequence, then do nothing. But if the element is an empty choice, then there's no way to parse the sequence, right? The empty choice is not parsable, so you can't parse the sequence either. So what we do is return an empty choice, which is unparsable. Right. And I think what we can do then is somehow handle the invalid rules better. How do we handle the invalid rules currently? Oh, here it is. Simplify item in choice. So if name starts with invalid, we return none. So we remove that. But it might be better to get rid of this and instead look at wherever we create non-terminals. There we go. So when creating nodes for this name leaf, which is either a token or a rule name, if that's a type comment, we ignore that entirely. If it's in uppercase, it's a token. Otherwise, it's a non-terminal. So there's one more if to do here, and that's if this thing starts with invalid. Then we say it's not parsable, so empty choice. And I guess there's one more thing we should do, and that is if we don't have any items, then we should format the choice differently. Right? Shouldn't just say anything. The problem now is the unparsable shows up in a bunch of places in the grammar.
Yeah.
Why is that? Let's say.
Because it's the end.
So for statement can have for or async for blah 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 blah, and then it has this unparsable before a block. Oh, is it the type comment? Might be the type comment. Anyway, the reason we have this is this is wrapped in optional, right? Need to add one more rule.
Yeah.
For optional, because if we have an optional unparsable thing, then the only way to parse it is to not parse it at all, right? Make this as empty sequence.
We just pass?
Yeah,
oh, return an empty sequence.
We need to
okay.
return something, so we return something you can always parse.
Okay.
And now we have no diff from the previous documentation. But if
nice.
I look at this, I mean, we got rid of this special case, which is nice.
Yeah.
I really need to get rid of this hack. So this looks like a nice incremental improvement.
Yeah.
The only
Very nice.
thing I would do is name these. Right, so I can do maybe in here say empty as an empty sequence.
Oh, okay.
And unparsable or unreachable
As also
is an empty choice.
M's choice.
Right, and then we do assertion replace here.
Very cool.
So I'd like to do search and
Yeah.
replace incrementally, just to look at all the places I'm changing.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
If an item in a sequence is unreachable, the whole sequence is unreachable. That reads a bit better. Okay. Did that change? No. Oh, and I can't use empty. I can't use empty in a case statement.
Oh, can you use blank or?
No, I can't.
Blank.
So if I use a variable name here, it will
Oh, I see.
assign to that variable, which is a nasty thing about match statements that, well, I think should be solved somehow better, but can't. So the way to work around this is quite unfortunate, and it is to use attribute access.
Oh,
somehow. It doesn't really matter what the self is here.
that's so weird.
It is. It needs to be something else than a bare variable name. I think it's one of the, or it is the worst thing about match statements.
I didn't know that. Well, yeah,
This is a variable name that gets assigned to, right?
yeah, yeah.
This is a type name because it's outside the parentheses or
Hmm.
before the parentheses. But if you just have something that could be a variable name, you could either match against it or you could assign to it, and Python doesn't know.
Oh, I see.
And the change was approved even with this ambiguity. But if you do something with that, like put in an attribute access here, then
Well,
it works. But of course, it needs to be on self, so I need to assign these to node empty. Oh no,
oh, you can do three. I didn't realize you could do three levels. Equals, equals, equals.
well, it's 2 targets.
Oh.
Right?
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, see? That's what I'm trying to show here, and I'm not really succeeding.
Yeah.
That's why this should be somehow easier to understand.
And let's say to the right hand side.
I guess this part in the old docs is easy enough. The little plus. And hopefully with the railroad diagram it'll be more obvious.
Okay. Oh, funny.
Okay, so that's one change, not really functionality wise, but at least got something.
It's always nice to throw away code.
Oh,
Get rid of stuff you don't need anymore.
and to name stuff.
Yeah. And to name stuff good properly.
This empty sequence was a bit confusing, but the empty choice even more. Okay, and I guess we're out of time. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week. Cheers.